可能就 focus 佢一個
咪就係咯。
得幾十人，可能你有成千人。
嗱，我唔知佢咪計埋思考啦。如果佢計埋思考咧，咁啊思考梗係好啦。
咪咯。
思考咧，你 screen 曬啲人㗎啦嘛。
思考更加冇，你係著名思考直情由小學一路到大學嘅。
即係佢如果分開佢就好啲，如果唔分開佢咧，就唔 fair comparison 嚟嘅。
我諗佢分開即係排位嘅，即係佢亦都有個做埋咧。除咗 Ontario 之外咧，佢就highlight。Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our Toronto TV-Education Insight program. I'm Carol Chen, the program host. This is a very good opportunity for sharing with each other regarding the updated educational issues and status. Like there's a current report established by the Toronto TV, maybe that's on June 13, regarding the census of students from grade 7 to grade 10. The update issues and report already shared with the public. Today we are very lucky to have the research coordinator for the research department of Toronto District School Board, Miss Maria Yao, is here for sharing the update with us. Welcome, Miss Maria Yao.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I know you're very busy, but today we are very lucky to have you here for sharing your hard work. This is a wonderful report already established to the media. Today, can you please share with us about the whole thing?
Okay.
For instance, can you please let us know what's the research department's job? And your title is a coordinator, right?
Yes.
So may I know your kind of main job, how to coordinate the whole things?
Okay.
Please.
I've been associated with the Toronto District School Board, in fact, Toronto School Board for many, many years, I think since the late 80s. And I worked for the research department and as a coordinator. So we have a number of coordinators positions. Basically, we conduct a lot of research for our school board, trying to understand the needs of our students, trying to understand some of the issues that we need to address, etc. So because we are serving one of, in fact not one, I would say the largest school boards in Canada. So you can imagine that we have a lot of issues, problems or programs to study and evaluate. So that would be the kind of work that we're doing in our department.
Good. So we have a public kind of report available for us. It's like about the student census.
Yes.
Is it done by 2006?
Yeah.
How often for your department?
Okay. Maybe for your record, just to for the Toronto District School Board, which is the newly, I use the word new, is the amalgamated school board in 1998. So it was 10 years ago. So for the Toronto District School Board, which is the amalgamated school board, this census was the first time. You can't believe it. Yeah, it took 10 years before this kind of study is being asked to conduct, to do, and so this is the first one for the TDSB, Toronto District School Board. However, in the former Toronto Board of Education, this was done periodically since 1970s.
Okay, so it's a different thing.
It's very similar, but the Toronto Board of Education, the Toronto Board one was done in the former Toronto, which is smallest Toronto, and now with the bigger Toronto, including the former Scarborough, Etobicoke,
GTA.
North York, not exactly
Not GTA?
GTA, but the bigger Toronto. So this is the first time. So the first time we have the data from the former North York, Scarborough, Etobicoke, etc., and also of course the city of Toronto.
Good. How long it was taken, right? From the first day you start to now the results come up.
Oh, I see. This has been a very long process. First of all, even to conduct a year before conducting the study, there's a long process of consultation, communication with the community, with parents, with school, with teachers' unions, about the whole process. So it took a really long time to get it prepared, to get the buy-in, because it's so new to the system. And we call stakeholders, people that is very scared about this kind of study, to be honest. So even though former Toronto board has done it, but it was not done at that scale with a larger city. So it took a long time to get people ready to accept that, and also through a long consultation process. But it was implemented in the fall 2006, November.
Okay.
And exactly 1 year later, the report, the very first report, was released. So in fact, I would say it was very fast, but that was only the very first round report, which is an overview. And after that, we are, in fact, the second report has already been released as of now, and then we will have more reports coming out with more detailed analysis.
This is the first part.
The first part, yeah, was
Okay.
released last
So,
fall.
can you please share with us this is the first part? What area as a measurement for, to get this information?
Okay, when I said the first report, basically we are giving an overview, like the overall findings for the whole city of Toronto, the Toronto, all schools in Toronto board. You're right to mention that this census, the target groups were grade 7 up to grade 12. In
Grade
fact,
7, yes.
up to grade, so all secondary school plus grade 7, 8, which are the senior levels. The reason we didn't include the younger ones, because we thought that the question may be too complicated, too difficult for the younger ones. So as a matter of fact, again, for the last month, I was saying last month, since May 2008, we conducted a parent census covering kindergarten up to grade 6. So that, in other words, we have parents to do the younger ones, and then the student themselves to do from grade 7 up to grade 12. The report we're talking about, student census, is from grade 7 up to grade 12. So, yeah. Did I answer your questions?
Yes, I just think about, besides this, is there any measurement?
Oh, the measurements. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that question. First of all, one of the key components of this census is we ask a lot of demographic questions.
Okay.
Demographics means the gender, whether they're male or female. We even ask their racial identities. What racial cultural groups they're coming from. Now, at one point, it sounds like very controversial. Maybe later on you would know the reasons why we also ask that kind of quite sensitive questions. We also ask questions about family, social economic background, parents' educations, who they live with, if it's both parents, single parents. We'll ask a lot of those questions. And in fact, this is one of the key mandates for us to conduct the study, because we want to understand the demographic makeup, the profiles of our school systems. But other than that, we also took the opportunity to ask other questions about the in-school experiences. Are they happy in school? Whether they feel confident in the classroom, that kind of question. We also ask questions out of school about the homework, about the after-school activities, even asking about the eating habits, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And all the questions we ask, we have reasons behind that, because we have done research to show all those factors somehow related to school achievement. So it's a very rich, comprehensive studies covering in-school experiences, out-of-school experiences, also include their expectation or aspirations after high school. Do they expect themselves to attend university, or they expect themselves to attend colleges, and all those questions being asked. Yeah.
So I just think about, I really, really excited to hear that there's so many kind of measurements for this census. So I just think about, it should be a large team member for involvement, for implement this process.
Of course.
So how do we could it? Is it volunteers or paid staff?
Of course, it has to be the staff. The reason it has to be done in-house by staff, because it's very sensitive information. There's a lot of confidentiality issues here, because we don't want information to leak out to anyone, because we promise the students that this data will come to our research department for research purposes only. In fact, all the information we collected from them, including race, including family background, won't go into the report cards, won't go to the school administration either. And the whole purpose is to try to understand them. So in terms of involvement, yes, it's a big investment. and involvement. We have the whole department to work on that, and I can't remember the dollars, but we're talking about a lot of money here too.
It's worth it.
I think it's worth it because otherwise it's strange that you serve a large school board without knowing who your clients, in this way, in this sense, students are. I mean, you are helping the students, but you don't know who they are. But for the first time, we have the statistics, we have the number, we know who they are, so we can serve them better.
Great. Yeah. I think you were the coordinator for this whole process. I really enjoyed the report. I got it, the Toronto the Star. Is it the kind of reports that are already available for the community? So based on this update statistics, are you surprised or are you satisfied with the outcome? Okay.
By the way, the report you're referring to, in fact, that is already the second part of our reports. The first one is just an overview, like the demographic, the profiles, the percentage of students in who are speaking Chinese, for example, or the percentage of South Asian students. And then we also look at how many hours of homework, that kind of thing. The report we just released, in fact, or released by Toronto Star recently, is the second part of the report, which we link the student demographic information, for example, gender, boys or girls, with the achievement data that we collected normally from the schools. And so this is the kind of analysis. In terms of surprises, I would say maybe not too many surprises. For example, we know for a long time that girls seem...
This one?
Yeah, you can show this a little bit. This is from the Toronto Star.
Yeah, this is a lot of figures. So
a lot of figures.
I was a little bit surprised. It's a title for it that Toronto school failed to overcome barriers. So, for instance, is here English speaking result is not the Canadian best. It's a kind of Siberian and Hindi.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a little bit surprise for me.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you mean then.
Yeah.
In fact, when this news report came out last Friday, we were quite surprised by the way the writer extracted the information.
Oh, is that right?
Because it's like picking information, they try to show a lot of contrast. So there's not much background or context to go with the results. So in that sense, we're a little bit disturbed by that because we don't want the audience or readers to misunderstand.
Misleading.
Quite misleading to just look at the numbers like that. So it has to come with a context. And when you read out the title, again, maybe it's a catchy title, but again, it's kind of disturbing to look at just the title like that. The whole idea of doing this kind of study is to try to understand the needs of our students so that we can address it properly.
We are lucky to have you here for how to positively guide us to face this new information. For instance, what are the key factors influencing school and achievements? Like based on this result?
Are you talking about school achievement or student achievement?
Yes,
student achievement.
Based on this, what kind of factors?
Now, again, lots of research has been done in the U.S., some in Canada, or everywhere to study about factors affecting students' achievement. So there are a lot of different things talking about family factors, parents' involvement, homework, school environment, teachers, a whole host of factors. It can be a lot of factors. But one thing that we found out that for different students from different backgrounds, might be influenced by different factors. So take an example here when you talk about the home language, and this is about the OSSLT, which is the grade 10 literacy test. And you notice that how come students who speak certain languages seems to be doing higher than students who speak English. But again, you have to understand the different factors. When English-speaking students here, it refers to students from different backgrounds. It can be from the Caribbean, where they have a lot of challenges, or it can be students from very inner city children. So if you simply look at that, it will be very skewed. On the other hand, for example, it shows that immigrant children who have a strong family support, they can do well in school regardless of the language background. So I can't tell you when one factor or two factors that influence students' achievement. Is a whole host of factors and depends on what background you're coming from. One thing, for example, and we noticed that East Asian students, East Asian will make up a lot of Chinese students, okay, or Korean or Japanese, but mostly Chinese students. It seems that poverty is not as strong a factor affecting their work for them than for other groups like so-called white students. For white students, poverty is a big issue. If they're coming low socioeconomic background, in most cases the performance, statistically speaking, is low. But for East Asian students, it doesn't seem to be a factor. And then we have to look at further why. I don't think it has to do with genetics, but it's more to do with the family support behind that.
Exactly.
Yeah. As you know, a lot of East Asian families, regardless of family background, their parents are determined that they will give whatever support they can at home for the children. So in that case, the income level doesn't seem to be a strong factor as for white family who might have a lot of issues and problems to deal with, not to say schoolwork.
I think the most important thing is the expectation.
That can be one factor.
From the family,
Parents, yes.
parents, as well as the teacher. Even the same umbrella. For instance, I have experienced the same children from the same school, but different classes, teachers.
Yes.
This is different class of like the multicultural teachers, right? Different cultural teachers have different expectation. Even the same umbrella.
Exactly.
So the outcome may be a little bit different. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no simple answer like one or two factors. As you said, for some students, teachers make a whole lot of difference. So again, that's why we have to do the phase 2 and phase 3 reports that allow us to look at how different factors are affecting different groups of students. Once we can identify them as a school systems, as the school principals or teachers, then they know how to address those issues more appropriately.
You know what, as a part of the parents, I also an educator. I have a great impact from this report. Even I'm not yet deeply studied. Still, I said, oh my goodness, that is cause a lot of impact, right, for the community. For instance, racism, right? So you say stop racism, right? But the outcome shows that it's obviously different races have a different very, very different results.
Yeah.
For instance, black is 43 for like literacy reading.
Yes.
And then the East Asian have 78%.
Yes. Yes.
So of course it is different areas, the same differences. So as an expert now, you are here. So can you share how to face this impact for the community, especially of different school boards?
Yeah, so that's why I think it's our responsibility as the research experts here. This is the first level. So these are the numbers. But we are not satisfied to stop here to say, okay, that's the results. That's why we are working very hard. The second phase, the third phase of report, which we look at for black students. Then we look further, hopefully through the research, what are the factors behind that that may cause the lower results, that may explain the challenges that they are facing. And this is our responsibility to look at it deeper so that we can go to the schools, talk with the parents and talk with the educators and to see how to handle that. For example, when we look at the black students, on average, they have low income background. This is one factor. And a lot of Caribbean students from Caribbean background, in fact, they reported that very low percentage of the parents are coming from university degree background compared with other racial groups. So those can be some of the reasons behind that. And then as a school system, for example, one way to deal with that, they think about should they have more homework club so that after school they will have more support from school. Should they have mentors and coaches to help these students, because a lot of them coming from struggling families with one parent. So all those are the issues that will be coming up in our second or third round reports when we look deeper at why are the factors that cause low performance in some areas. Of course, we might not even able to give you all the causes, but at least we can introduce some of the factors related to the low performance or high performance.
Yeah, exactly. I look forward to having the second report because I think almost 10 years ago, I heard you share with the public regarding the maybe the first time.
Yes.
It's overall. Besides the academic,
Yes.
we also study the kind of a whole development of a student,
Right.
like social and emotional
Yes.
development.
Right.
I remember that our Asian of background student a little bit behind
Yes.
this area,
Yes. Yes.
and academic is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you predict? Yeah, I know this is not yet
Released.
released, but do you have any basic idea about what is it after 10 years? Is it change? Is any change or better?
Yeah,
I
think
hope so.
Yeah, I think we have to wait until the report is finalized and released, because until all the analysis is thoroughly done. However, I think there's still the pattern there. 10 years ago, when we got the data from the former Toronto Board of Education, is interestingly, in terms of academic performance, it's quite similar to what you are seeing today. That is relatively, they're doing high, relatively high. So, but on the other hand, I hope the Asian communities, East Asian communities, or the Chinese community won't be complacent that, oh, our children are doing so well academically. When we start looking at the other side of the scale, like social, as you said, emotional, oral, expressive skills, leadership, and all those things, at that time we found that they lagged far, far behind of other cultural groups. Now, although we haven't finalized and the analysis, but I won't be surprised if the pattern still remains, because it takes a long time to close the gaps. So once those reports are released, I think we will have a lot to talk about that. However, I would like to mention that student success shouldn't be measured simply by academic success. Academic is one important part of our child's development, but that is not the only thing. I think we need to have a whole well-rounded development, including social, emotional, physical well-being. And if we lack one and achieve well the others, this is, at least my definition, is not real success.
Oh, Maria, I think this is a good time to be sharing this, because I just had Chinese media share with us about the Fraser report. It's the annual report.
Yeah, the Fraser report.
Oh my goodness! I think so many Asian parents, including myself, is interested to the. Oh, is it my child's school? Is it on the top 30 across the Ontario?
Yes.
Even in your region or Toronto sport? There's a very so thick report. It's an annually.
Yeah.
So, as an expert you are, can you have some input with us? Like, you just mentioned that it should be a balance, whole development. But how do you face on this challenge?
Yes. Personally, I myself, including, I was dare to say, my colleagues or the school system would have a lot of problems with this kind of school ranking.
Okay.
Lots of problems.
Yeah, look.
And as you said, this is based on the Fraser report done by the Fraser Institute. And I hope the audience will understand the basis they used to rank these schools. It was based on the EQAO, the provincial test results. And it's very dangerous as researchers or as educators to share with you that to look at the school, to rank the school simply by one indicator, which is EQAO, and then look at the results and see these are the best schools, this is the low school. First of all, it's totally unfair to the schools, to the students, to the teachers, and the principals. Some schools that seems doing well may not be the best schools, because very often some of those schools, whether it's in other jurisdictions, a lot of them are maybe students from families which are very well prepared for schooling to start off with. But schools that may not seem to have high EQAO performance may be very good schools when we look at the teachers. They may be the teachers who spend most times with the students who will have the very low performance, and how to help these low performance students to move one level higher. They may have done a lot of work, especially in our inner city schools or in our very challenging schools. In fact, they might have do extras. Now, those, to us as educators, those are good schools. And some schools may not emphasize too much on EQAO because they want to to provide a well-balanced environment. Some schools may provide a lot of leadership programs, a lot of physical programs, social programs, to hopefully the kids will have social confidence on top of preparing them for the EQAO test. So by simply looking at that, it's totally misleading. And also EQAO test, especially for small schools, for example, a small school only 30 students. 1 or 2 students will cause 5 to 10% differences. So if 1 or 2 students are doing good or bad, it will immediately move the school up or down by several levels. So if it is purely based on that, you can see how dangerous it is to compare school this way. I think to look at school effectiveness or how successful school, you really have to visit the school and look at the different facets of the school. What kind of programs they have, what kind of students they have, and what kind of teachings they have. So as an educators or researchers, we don't have much faith in this kind of report because it's purely based on one small indicators. We have lots of problems.
So actually, you advise that as a parents, you don't need to move the house to the areas for entering these famous schools.
I don't think so. Of course, a neighborhood somehow make a whole lot of difference. Challenging neighborhoods, of course, you expect more challenging children, and because of that, the school results may look lower because there are a lot of issues we have to deal with. In fact, some schools, children coming to school without breakfast, with no lunch. So lots of those schools, in fact, we are providing a lot of nutrition, food programs, not to say test or EQAO. So they have to deal with those issues first. So a lot of children, some schools coming late to schools, absence, or being suspended, all those issues. So imagine, how come they're ready for taking the test? Of course, I think you should base on your neighborhood. You look at the neighborhood around it, you feel comfortable, stay there. It will be good schools. I won't worry about whether it's a top 2, top 3, top 4. It moved up and down, and I guess it's so dangerous to rely just on one indicators to measure the school.
So I think the public right now, day by day, understand we don't need to push the children to focus only on the academic, because as an Asian parents always have enrichment programs. Like every non-stop. The whole week fully occupied for different subjects. So I think it's not too held like this, right?
No, I think if we have a chance to look at the further report when it's ready, it's important to point out that academic, of course, is also one of the important part, but it's not the only part. And we rather to have balanced the children to grow up, that they have the confidence, they have the leadership skills. They may not be the top in academic, but they're doing well. But at the same time, they have the social consciousness, they have the citizenships skills, and they are more caring, and all those are important part of the full development of our children.
Good. That's why your trustee of the Toronto School Board, they recommended cut down some homework time. And they recommend quality family time instead. So
I
do you agree with this?
In a way, yes. I think at one point we have been like a pendulum. We have moved to an extreme, and then I know for a lot of Chinese parents, maybe the children can cope with homework, that's why they say it's fine. But the school system is serving everyone. It's not just serving the Chinese parents only. So for a lot of other families, they have really difficulty to have family time when the children have to struggle with the difficulty of the homework. Again, just remember, the school system is not to de-emphasize academic work. They are still putting a lot of emphasis on reading, on writing, on math. No doubt about it. But they also see the importance of having quality time for children with their family, with their neighbors, with their friends, and to have a holistic development.
Good.
And I think that's just the whole reasons behind that kind of new policy.
Yeah, I hope the parents treasure Maria's comments. As a kind of professional on the education, with the current data and statistics shows what is the long-term and short-term goal for wisely using the materials?
Okay, I think the reason why the school board, after 10 years of the amalgamation, finally decided to do this kind of study is because they have to accept exactly the short-term and the long-term goals for that. The short-term, I think, is to first of all understand, as I mentioned earlier, to understand who are the students that we are serving. You need to know that. So this is, you get the statistics right away. And then the second level is that what are their needs?
Very good.
And another, are there any gaps? Like, are the boys doing better than girls or girls better? If there are gaps, how wide is the gaps? And the whole idea is that these becomes baseline for us to look at improvement, growth over time. 3 years later, 5 years later, when you do it again, we measure whether we're closing the gaps. If we're closing the gaps, it means the system is trying to improve everyone.
Good.
And to move up the whole system.
So do you feel too lonely? 10 years ago, the Toronto School worked very hard on these studies. Then another 10 years, still only by Toronto School Board. I just wonder, as an outsider, do you think we can team up together with the other school board, like York Region is a big umbrella right now, or the other PO, school board, then we team up together for overall research? Do you think it's more meaningful?
Yeah, it's challenging because it depends on jurisdictions, However, we heard a little bit that the government is thinking about what you are suggesting, whether this should be done maybe even at the provincial level one day, because so that everyone will look at this in more detail and try to address the issues.
Yeah, at least we have an EQAO for
the whole province.
Almost 10 years, right?
Yes.
So it should be the time, more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wonder, like, 10 years, I think you have been a coordinator of this job for over 10, 20 years. What's the feeling, or can you share with us your feedback about the past works and look forward to your future? Can you share with us about your expectation or your feeling about this process?
The process, what, the census process or the research process?
Yeah, research process.
I think this census exercise is very worthwhile. And again, this is my personal feeling only, and I have been doing this kind of study for a long time in the former Toronto board and now in the Toronto District School Board. I think it's something that is very a lot of courage for the school system to do this kind of thing, because they are showing publicly the differences, and they dare to share with the public. But the good thing about it is, if they dare to look at it, that means they dare also to address it properly. So I have a lot of I'm very positive about this, and I can see that this is something very courageous, and I'm really glad that we have done it. And then in a few years' time, when we do it again, then we start measuring how we're closing the gaps. And I think it's only by good data that is driving decision makers and is driving actions and improvement.
Do you mind to give some advice for the educators, parents, as well as the students, based on the update data? For instance, this is a very negative, right? Like Toronto's schools fail to overcome barriers.
Yeah.
It's a little bit discouraged.
The title is a kind of negative, but when you start looking at the content, sometimes what they discuss is quite fair, that something we want to look at. I think I would advise parents, probably I would say advise parents, when you start looking at all these numbers, we always advise people to look at it with context. With context, look with some understanding about the background of the students. So as a matter of fact, I would strongly advise parents, it's not an issue to look at it. Maybe some parents will be, I myself would be curious to look at my children's school, how they rank. It's for curiosity. But don't just rely on these numbers and then pick schools for your child. I think it's more important for you to understand the needs of your own child and then match her or his needs with the kind of schools that can provide the programs that would be best address or meet her interests and needs. Yeah.
You know what? I really proud of your team especially you as a
Okay.
coordinator, for this transparency of the school board, how to run, how to be brave to, kind of get information and face the challenges. Especially, we know that Toronto is a multicultural
Yes.
city,
Very much.
and Canada is a multicultural country. So if we know how to face this status, then we know how to educate our new generation,
Yes.
because they are multicultural,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
And they are our futures.
Yes.
So today we are very lucky to have Maria here,
Thank you.
and I look forward to a second part.
Okay.
Because you just mentioned it, not yet confirmed, but I'm really excited to the changes before and after.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you once they available, can you please come here and share with us again?
Okay. Sure.
So thank you so much for
Thank
your
you, Carol.
coming,
Yes.
and thank you everyone. So hope you enjoy Maria's comments, and don't just move the house and focus on the academic.
Yes.
We should be balanced, right?
Yes.
We
Exactly.
we look forward to our future's whole balance.
Yes. Exactly. Good
Thank you
advice.
so much. Look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you. 可能就 focus 佢一個
咪就係咯。
得幾十人，可能你而家成千人。
嗱，我唔知佢咪計埋私校啦。如果佢計埋私校咧，咁啊私校梗係好啦。
咪咯，
私校咧你 screen 晒啲人㗎啦嘛。
私校更加冇，你睇著名私校直情由小學一路到大學嘅。
即係佢如果分開佢就好啲，如果唔分開佢咧，
佢分開
就唔 fair comparison 嚟嘅。
我諗佢分開即係排位嘅，即係佢亦都有個做埋咧。除咗 Ontario 之外咧，佢就